Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I thank the panel for being here on a Saturday, along with all the rest of us. A couple of quick questions. The first is for Dr. Purvis. Since you didn't get a chance to address the 90 versus 10%, could you just clarify specifically what the issues are with the problem with the governor's opposition with that small piece of the bill?
So again, I've been much quoted on this, and I would like to say that where I've been criticized on this, I wouldn't get in a car that the brakes only work 90% of the time either. The detailed changes that from the one to the other that I think are the governor would like to see is that in HB 4069, it removes the unfunded pension liability deduction from CPS's local capacity target, therefore ensuring that new money put into the formula was not diverted from other districts to CPS. Maintaining the SB1, again, the hold harmless, and then moving to a per pupil. Removing the CPS block grant from the non-integrated items, but leaving the $50 million for those two integrated items into the CPS block grant. It removes $93 million from the minimum funding level, bringing that minimum funding level to a point that we think is better, appropriate, and can be afforded by the state. And it also removes the property tax relief pool grants, because we do not believe at this time that there is funding in it, that there is funding available for that.
Okay, thank you. This question is for Mr. Martiri. You had mentioned earlier that you made the statement that the formula uses the best practices in school funding. I just wanted to ask you, is it best practice to include legacy costs in a school funding formula? Unfunded decades of legacy costs.
So the legacy cost isn't actually included in the school funding formula under SB1, nor is it included in the distribution model. What's included in the distribution model is a recognition of actual local capacity for all school districts. And so going back to the comment I made previously, we know CPS, which retains the sole obligation to fund its pension costs, both legacy and normal, even after SB1 passes, has to utilize a certain proportion of its local capacity to pay that bill. So that's just local capacity that's not available. So the bottom line is, it's not that CPS gets its legacy cost covered at all. It doesn't. It just has its local capacity reduced so that we can honestly evaluate what CPS has available to contribute in for education.
That's correct. And if you lower the local capacity target, what is the state's responsibility?
All that happens, remember, Chicago, or CPS as I should say, adequacy target remains the same. So the state would pick up a little bit more of that school funding for that adequacy target because Chicago doesn't have the local resources to cover it.
Can you define a little bit more?
Yeah.
How many dollars were included in SB1 to pick up?
Well, to be clear, to cover the cost of currently educating kids. And as it worked in the model, it moved them up about $12 million in the initial distribution, which got them to 20% of the total amount being distributed, which represents the same proportion as the number of kids they educate. So it ended up working perfectly from a proportionality standpoint.
From a standpoint of disparity, the fact of the matter is that Chicago Public Schools, by including legacy costs, you're reducing your local capacity target, meaning the state picks up the rest. So if there's new money that goes in, that's less money that goes to other districts. I just want to make one other point with regards to the numbers in comparison to SB1 and 1124. In the models that were run with $288 million running through the 1124 model versus $350 million in the model for SB1, every school district comes out better in 1124. And the argument that this is not comparing apples to apples and apples to oranges, it's not technically, because you're not putting the same amount of money in, but putting less new money results in better outcomes for every single school district, including Chicago Public Schools, because the way that we are running the elements through the model makes everyone benefit. So to be able to not even, Dr. Garrison, to not even answer the question about how much better off is refusing to look at the actual outcome of using this model to do that. I'd like to just stop right there and yield my time to Representative Mitchell.